My mother didn't even lower her voice when she said it. The hospital hallway still smelled of antiseptic and cold metal, sharp enough to sting the back of my throat. Fluorescent lights flickered above us with that hollow buzzing that makes everything feel unreal, like the world is slightly out of focus. Nurses hurried past with clipped footsteps, murmuring to one another in tired voices. Somewhere down the hall, a heart monitor beeped steadily, each note a reminder that someone's story was balancing on the edge. I was 16, bleeding, barely conscious, and my mother stood near the nurse's station, tapping her manicured nails on the counter as if she were waiting for a late dinner reservation. "If it dies," she said flatly, "let me know. I don't have time for paperwork." Not she. Not my daughter. Her words didn't crack. Mine couldn't. My throat was too dry, too tight, too desperate to hold on to the air that didn't quite reach my lungs. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know. My name is Evelyn Hart. I'm 35 now, but at 16, I learned how fast a mother could walk away from her child, and how a stranger could step into the empty space she left behind. Hours earlier, I had been at a family Thanksgiving, the kind where the smell of burnt turkey mixed with cheap candles, and cousins laughed loudly to hide the tension adults pretended not to notice. When the party ran late, my mother insisted she and my sister had spa appointments they couldn't cancel. I was told to find my own way home. The sun had already set when I climbed onto my bike. The November air was cold enough to burn my lungs. I remembered the faint smell of chimney smoke drifting from a neighbor's house as I pedaled, headlights from passing cars flashing across my face like brief, bright warnings. I didn't even see the car that hit me. Just the sound, a heavy thud, metal scraping asphalt, followed by a sensation like the world folding inward. I woke up on the pavement, tasting blood, my leg twisted at an unnatural angle. The smell of gasoline and damp leaves filled my nose. My vision blurred in and out, catching glimpses of strangers kneeling beside me, their voices rising and falling like waves. By the time the ambulance arrived, my consciousness was hanging by threads. The next moment I remember clearly was the ear, cold lights, fast-moving hands, the metallic tang of fear filling the room. And my mother's voice cutting through it all like a blade. "She doesn't need surgery right now. We'll come back tomorrow." The doctor, a man with weary eyes and warm hands, stared at her in disbelief. "Ma'am, your daughter has internal bleeding. She needs emergency surgery immediately. Delaying even hours could." I said no. Her tone was light, unconcerned. "My facial treatment is in 30 minutes. If she dies, call me. If she doesn't, call me after 9. He tried again. "Ma'am. Don't ma'am me. It's my decision." A memory drifted through me like smoke. I was 8 years old, fever burning through my body. I lay on the sofa, my mother painting her nails while telling my sister to keep the noise down. When I asked for water, she sighed loudly as if my illness were a personal inconvenience. "You're so dramatic, Evelyn. It's just a fever." Even then, I learned silence was safer than needing anything. Back in the present, the doctor's jaw tightened. His gaze shifted to the nurse beside him. Something unspoken passed between them, something heavy and urgent. "Call the administrator," he said softly. "Now." The nurse hurried down the hall. My mother huffed as though we were all part of a performance she no longer wished to star in. She straightened her purse strap and rolled her eyes dramatically. "Fine. I'll be at the spa. Text me if anything important happens." Then she left. Just like that. Heels tapping down the hallway, perfume lingering behind her like a cheap apology. I felt the world tilt. Not from blood loss, though there was plenty of that, but from the realization that she would rather lose me than lose a deposit on a massage. My vision blurred again. The hallway lights stretched into long white streaks. The doctor's voice softened. "Evelyn, stay with me. We're going to take care of you. Someone will sign for you." "Who?" I croaked. My voice tasted like metal. He didn't answer. "Not yet." They wheeled me quickly through double doors, the air turning colder, the lights brighter. The scent of sterile gloves and iodine filled my lungs. Nurses spoke in calm, quick sentences. The beeping of machines surrounded me, steady and rhythmic. As the mask lowered over my face, I heard the doctor whisper something, soft but certain. "You're not alone." Then everything faded to black. When I opened my eyes again, the room was dim and quiet. Morning light seeped through partially closed blinds, casting pale stripes across the blanket covering my legs. My throat ached. My body felt heavy, stitched together with pain and something softer. Safety, maybe. A nurse with gentle eyes walked in. She smelled faintly of coffee and peppermint. "You're awake," she said softly. "You're very lucky." I blinked slowly. Hey, Mom." The nurse's expression darkened, but only for a moment. "There's something you need to know. It's on your chart." He handed me a clipboard. My hands trembled as I lifted the page. Under legal guardian, the words stared back at me in bold, typed letters. New legal guardian, Mr. Theodore Clark. My breath caught. I didn't know the name. Not even a little. "Who is that?" I whispered. The nurse pulled a chair close. "Someone who wouldn't let you die." Her voice was gentle, but her eyes carried the weight of everything she wasn't allowed to say. A stranger had signed for my surgery. A stranger had claimed legal responsibility when my mother refused to. A stranger had saved my life. But why? Who was he really? The room suddenly felt colder. Because if he wasn't a stranger, then someone had been watching over me long before I realized I needed saving. And that meant my entire life might not be what I thought it was. For a long moment I could only stare at the name on the chart. Mr. Theodore Clark. The letters seemed too sharp, too deliberate, as if the truth had been typed with conviction rather than ink. The nurse waited beside me, the soft scent of peppermint lingering in the air. Outside my room, a cart rattled down the hallway. Someone coughed. A monitor beeped in slow, steady intervals. Life was moving, ordinary and oblivious, while mine felt split open. "Who is he?" I whispered. She hesitated, then leaned forward. "The administrator said he arrived minutes after your mother refused consent. He signed immediately. No hesitation. He was insistent about saving you." The word insistent echoed in my head like a quiet, defiant heartbeat. "I don't know him," I murmured. The nurse gave me a look that was both gentle and impossibly sad. "Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones who raised us." She left me with that sentence, soft but heavy as stone. I lay back against the pillows, the sterile smell of the room sharpening around me. The faint hum of the vent filled the silence. Everything felt distant yet painfully vivid. A memory slid into my mind uninvited. I was 9 years old, standing outside the school after a winter recital. Snowflakes drifted beneath the street lamp, melting on my gloves. My mother hadn't shown up. Other kids ran into warm arms, laughter muffled by scarves. My teacher, a kind man with tired eyes, stood with me until the last car left. Hours later, a man I didn't recognize pulled up in an old sedan. He crouched to my level, coat unbuttoned, hat in hand. "Evelyn?" he asked, voice steady but tender. I nodded timidly. "Your mother couldn't make it. I'm here to take you home." I remembered the way my teacher exhaled, relieved, reassured. I remembered how the man held the car door open so carefully. I remembered thinking he smelled faintly of cedar and old books. I never saw him again. At least, I didn't think I had. The memory blurred, replaced by the hospital's quiet. Could it have been him? Could Theodore Clark have been watching over me long before this night? The thought made my pulse quicken. Hours passed. Nurses came and went, whispering things I only half heard. I drifted in and out of sleep, the pain medication turning my thoughts into slow-moving lights. At one point, someone left a cup of broth on my bedside table. The steam curled gently into the air, smelling like salt and something soothing but unfamiliar. By late afternoon, the sky outside the window had turned pale gray. Rain tapped softly against the glass, polite, persistent. That's when the door opened. A man stepped inside. Gray hair combed neatly back. A charcoal coat still speckled with rain. He carried himself with quiet restraint, as though he didn't want to disturb the air around him. My breath caught. He didn't smile, not immediately. He simply nodded once, respectfully, almost timidly, and approached the foot of my bed. "Evelyn," he said softly. His voice held warmth without presumption. Familiar without explanation. I swallowed. "You're Theodore Clark." "Yes." He slipped his hands into his coat pockets, his shoulders modest but steady. "I'm relieved to see you awake." "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why did you sign for me? Why would you even care?" He looked down as though gathering the right words from the linoleum floor. I knew your mother. A long time ago. Long before she changed. His jaw tightened slightly, grief flickering across his face. And I knew your father. The air thickened. My father. I echoed. He left before I turned 3. That's the story you were told, he said gently. Something inside me twisted, like a locked drawer slowly opening. He moved closer, stopping near the chair beside me. The scent of rain and cedar clung to his coat. I was your father's closest friend, he said. And I made him a promise the night you were born. My heart stuttered. What promise? That if anything ever happened, if your mother ever failed to protect you, I would step in. His eyes softened. He trusted me with you, Evelyn. He trusted me more than anyone. My vision blurred. Not from medication. Not from pain. From the sudden realization that someone, had loved me enough to plan for my safety long before he knew I'd need it. Theodore's voice grew quieter. Your father left instructions. Legal ones. Unusual ones. He feared your mother's indifference. He put me down as a secondary guardian. No one knew. Not even her. My pulse thudded in my ears. She refused the surgery. He closed his eyes for a moment as though steadying anger. I arrived as soon as the hospital called. When they told me what she said, he inhaled sharply. There was no decision to make. You are your father's daughter. Rain dripped steadily outside. Somewhere down the hall, a cart rolled over a bump in the floor. The world kept moving while I sat there unraveling the story of my own life. I whispered, why didn't you ever come before? He hesitated. I tried. Your mother told me to stay away. Took things from him. Not just money. Custody agreements. Letters. Anything that hinted at the truth. A memory shimmered faintly, me at 10 overhearing my mother tear up a stack of papers and say, he won't have access. Not anymore. I didn't understand then. Now I did. But you saved me, I murmured. He shook his head. No. I honored a promise. He stepped closer, voice softening. The world failed you in many ways, Evelyn. But not everyone did. My chest tightened. A strange warmth bloomed beneath my ribs. A feeling unfamiliar but deeply human. Will you stay? I asked quietly. His answer came without pause. As long as you need. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was asking too much. The months that followed were a quiet reconstruction of my life. Theodore handled appointments. He answered calls my mother ignored. He sat beside me during physical therapy sessions where the room smelled of sweat, plastic bands, and hope. He never imposed. Never demanded. Never acted as though guardianship was ownership. Instead, he showed up, consistently, gently, wholly. And slowly, the aching emptiness carved by my mother became something else. Space for a different kind of family. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story, and don't forget to subscribe. Some people break us without blinking. Some people arrive precisely when we're falling. And some keep promises we never knew were made on our behalf. Sometimes love arrives when history doesn't.